Hello chess friends and welcome to Azadov's chess channel and welcome to another great game of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge in 2020. It's Hikaru Nakamura against young Krzysztof Duda. This is the game from round 10. So Hikaru Nakamura played really great games in this tournament. He played really some great attacking brilliance. He's finally, I think now he's in top shape. It's a shame that he's not participating in this candidates tournament. I think in this form he would be really a competitor for even winning this challenger tournament. But okay, this is now a different tournament. Of course, he faces now young Krzysztof Duda, who surprisingly won the game against Magnus Carlsen. Let's see now what happened. It was really a great game, again with some great strategical and tactical elements. This will be, I think, also an instructive game. Here e4 played by Hikaru. We have c5, knight to f3, d6. After bishop to b5 we have the Canal Attack. The idea behind this move, bishop to b5, is force black to play something, for instance the bishop or the knight, and then close the light course, because the idea, if for instance bishop to d7 happens, then we can always play on our positional trades of pieces. For instance, let's see, bishop to d7, bishop takes d7, after knight takes d7. We could go, I think, even c4 here, building sort of a more bind setup, and then followed with d3, knight to c3. This will be, I think, a hard battle for black, because d4 will follow, then maybe really this pawns in the center will create very nice pressure. So in the game, knight to d7 was played. So here Duda is trying to keep a flexible game. He's not trying to get this light for bishops off the board. And in the game, bishop to a4. This is really a great line, which is prepared by Hikaru Nakamura. Basically, he's playing on the same idea. He's trying c4, d3, maybe bishop to c2, still build this sort of a stonewall formation in the center. In the game, we have knight to f6 by Duda, and now a very cool move by Hikaru here. A kingside castling. If you take, for instance, here knight takes e4, I think you face already some troubles with rook to e1. Where to go? You are really troubled here on the e file. We could maybe play d4 immediately to crack the position in the center. Knight to c3 is a possibility, followed with knight to d5. So it will be really hard now for black to defend here, still with this undeveloped bishop. Still you need more moves in order to make something happen. So that's why here, after the move castling, a6 was played by Duda, and now we have c4 by Nakamura. It's building this stonewall formation, or if we play the d3 move, it would be a stonewall formation. If we play d4, then it would be sort of a bind. But this I'm telling you because pawn structures are basically our soul of the chess, because pawn structures are directing the common strategies in chess. So here in the game, after the move c4, we have g6 by Duda, and we have knight to c3, bishop to g7, h3. You see how Hikaru builds really this fortress on like squares. Here in the game, castling was played, and now we have d3, which is really a similar setup like in the stonewall, because the stonewall formation most of the times is built by black. Here white built sort of a stonewall setup, and if we evaluate the position immediately, I have to be honest, I would always rather be black here, because there is one strategical idea from black's perspective. It's of course the knight outpost on d4. So this is our main goal, sort of, because the problem for white is that you have already pushed your c4 and e4 pawn. So it means if we cement something on d4, then you cannot kick this particular piece with the pawn. You cannot kick it away with the pawn. If white, for instance, plays something like knight to d5, if white tries outpost here, then still we have the flexibility to maybe play sort of an e6 move, which would kick away the potential knight on d5 move. So the other strategical idea could be maybe to get rid of the dark square bishops. Still, this dark square bishops are okay. White's dark square bishop is okay, and black's dark square bishop is okay. They have both good diagonals here. The dark square bishop of whites is also perfectly fine. What I don't like is white's light square bishop, because it's a little bit out of game. If you try maybe to improve it, you see still your pawns are in the way. So as I said, from a strategical point of view, I would love to be black here, but okay. Here Duda played rook to b8, which wasn't maybe the best move. Basically you don't have to play here on b5 ideas. It's really not the best way here to proceed, because the b5 square is very well protected by the knight, by the pawn, and by the bishop. So here I don't think you should search for counter attacks. Maybe here a better idea would be simply to play on our idea knight to b8, knight to c6, and maybe knight to d4. This would be sort of a path of the knight, which could maybe create some damage in white position. But okay, here Duda tried rook to b8, and you see white has basically the domination on the b file, because white is the one which can play here really this very nice b4 move and maybe open the b file. In the game, queen to a5 was played by Duda, preventing this idea of white to play the move b4 immediately, and now bishop to d2, preparing of course some discovery attacks by the bishop. So that's why queen to c7 had to be played, and now Hikaru plays on his idea to play a3 b4, simple pawn breakthroughs here on the b file. So we have e6. This is now the restriction idea, of course, by Duda. Never allowed this knight to jump on d5, kicking away the queen. The queen is now developed. Basically what we want to do from black's perspective is develop somehow the light square bishop. In the game, b4 was played, and now b6, b takes c5. We have b takes c5, and now queen to c2. Okay, so far the pawn structure is similar to the previous one. Even after the trades of pawns, still our main goal would be this knight outpost on d4. What white could use here as a strategical idea is maybe something like knight to h2, and then maybe f4, f5, pawn breakthroughs, maybe somehow get this bishop into the game. But it's really hard if this bishop is threatened to be locked further. I think we should even give up it maybe for a knight here, just to have some kind of an activity, because the bishop has a good activity on this, but it's really out of game, because the game is basically coordinated more on the king side. As I said, maybe f4, f5 is sort of an idea here by white, but it's now hard for black to put this idea through, to place the knight on d4. I think Duda missed that opportunity. Now he has to regroup. He has to make many moves in order to make this strategy happen. And we have knight to b6, kicking away the bishop. We have bishop to b3, and now knight to d7. Again, sort of a reloading system, and we are waiting now. Of course, black could also try here some e5 moves to really close the center, but still it's okay to have this restriction pawn structure here. Never allow again this knight to jump on d5. So this was a good move, I think, by young Krzysztof Duda, and we have now knight to a4. Here knight to a8, maybe even trade off the knight is a good idea, but okay, here Duda tries a more complicated way. Tried maybe here to trade off this rooks on the b file, and we have bishop to c3, which is a good now choice for Duda to trade off the dark square bishops here after knight takes c3. Okay, basically you shouldn't give up your dark square bishop, but white doesn't have any more the dark square bishop himself, so most of the times you don't want to give up the dark square bishop when white has castle on the queen side. So if white would have castled, for instance, if you could just imagine a different position, if white would have castled here on the queen side, then a common flank attack would be possible, maybe h4, h5, then maybe create with the rook on the h file some checkmate threats here combined with the queen. But when the kings are on the same file, on the same side, then a common flank attack in order to create checkmate threats, it's not so dangerous. So that's why Duda can really trade off the dark square bishops. And if we evaluate the position now immediately, still this bishop is blocked out by its own pawns, but I always think that this bishop will come into the game much more faster than this one. This one is really blocked out by these three pawns here in the center. Black can always play something like e5 and then maybe f5 himself, trading off maybe the pawns here and maybe open the f file. In the game, knight to b6 again by Duda. So you see he made many moves with his knight. We have queen to d2. Here Hikaru tries to sneak in with the queen, and here bishop to b7. So here very interesting idea. Queen to h6. It seems that something went wrong for Duda because knight to g5 will follow, then we're attacking the h7, but it's not a problem because we have rook to d8 after knight to g5 and knight to f8. So far everything is protected. What we could now maybe do is finally to play this move e5. Then if the knight jumps on d5, then we could give up maybe our bad bishop sort of, which is of course our light square bishop, for a good knight, and then Hikaru Nakamura would continue the game with the light square bishop, which is really bad on the board, although it had some activities, but I'm not seeing a good way how to include this bishop. Here in the game f4 was played, and now f6 attacking the king of knight of course, and here knight to f3. We have bishop to c6 and now queen to h4. Here queen to g7. Maybe a better idea is now finally to crack the position here with the move f5, or maybe something like e5. You have to make something happen here with his pawns in the game. Again, Duda tried a piece move. He tried queen to g7, and we have now a rook to e1. Here Hikaru regrouped. Now he has the possibility here maybe to push the pawn on d4. Even e5 is a possibility to crack the position. And here Duda played really, I think, an unnecessary move, rook to d7, although the idea is clear to double up rooks on the b file, but maybe here more normal way is to proceed with knight to d7. Still you have your rook connections, and maybe it's now really time to play the move f5, really close the center, maybe try to open something, maybe this include this light square bishop somehow into the game. But okay, here Duda tried this move rook to d7, and we have queen to f2. So you see, although Hikaru Nakamura had this checkmate threat, still it's very hard to attack the king because the kings are on the same side. If you try to push pawns further, then of course you're weakening your own king. So that's why queen to f2. Now the idea is obvious, of course, to place here the pawn on d4 and maybe try to finally open the position. Here a rook to b7, we have a bishop to a2, and here finally this move f5, we have d4, and now after f takes e4, knight takes e4. Here I think Duda makes the main mistake in his game. What Duda should have played here, I think, is the move bishop takes e4. And I think in this particular position, after rook takes e4, black has a better game, because still I'm pointing you out, this bishop is blocked out. So what you don't want to do is just somehow maybe to take c takes d4, then this pawn could move on, and then the light square bishop would be open. So what we want to do here after potential rook to e4 is keep the bishop out of game. So it's of course blocked out by its own pawn. So I think this knight will always find the way into the games because knights are more flexible pieces than bishops. We could always find a way how to include this knight into the game, find maybe some good squares. As I said, what we just don't want to do here in this position is to open the light square diagonal, because in the next move white will probably push the pawn on c5, and then this bishop, if this bishop gets into the game, then it's really a monster bishop. So here after the potential rook to e4, I think now Duda can play simply knight to d7 and simply occupy the b file, or if for instance white retreats, simply simplify the position, rook takes, maybe rook takes. It's really a good position, I think, still for black. As I said, still this bishop maybe has now a better diagonal, but again it's blocked out. It doesn't have such a great activity. What white would love to have is this light square bishop on this diagonal where it aims against the king. So as I said, I think this is playable for Duda. But now here after the move knight takes e4, as I said, he didn't take, he played now his main mistake in the game, and Hikaru Nakamura punished him immediately after the move knight to f4. You see rook takes b7. After rook takes b7, what Hikaru Nakamura has gained here is an active rook now, which is placed on the e file. So here, while Duda was competing with the rooks on the b file, now his rook is far away from the action. Here we have finally this move d5. So what to do here? Here Duda tried a counter attack with the move rook to b2, but now Hikaru played a very nice counter attack, queen to h4. If you take, for instance, that's the problem, then you get very nasty attacks. Here knight to f6 is the possibility. Here if you try king to f7, we can play another check. That's the main problem. And here, if you try, here king takes f6, then we can simply play on a very, very nasty idea. Here it's a check, discovered check with the potential queen lost here by black. So whatever you do, even in this position, if you try here to play something like king to e7, then again we would have knight takes e6. If you try, for instance, queen to f6, then we would have a very nice check, knight to d8, deflecting the king from the queen. So you see, this was a great calculation by Hikaru Nakamura here in this position to leave simply his bishop hanging and played on this very active idea, queen to h4. Here Duda realized his problems, that this knight will be too powerful combined with the rook. Here there are 4 pieces attacking against the king, only the queen and the knight are defensive pieces here. And here Duda tried e takes d5, but now knight to f6, this very, very tricky idea. And after king to h8 we have the counter attack, c takes d5. And now where to go with the bishop? If you try, for instance, bishop to d7, then we get knight takes d7. After queen takes d7, the problem is you get this move rook to e7. There's no way to protect everything, because the main threat is here queen to f6, so it's a lost game here for black. Duda has basically only one square here. After the move d5, he has the move bishop to b5, and now comes really a great move. Here maybe you could pause the video and try to find the best next move for white. It's really nice deflection motif, great tactical motif that Hikaru Nakamura found here in the game. It's the move bishop to c4, deflecting the bishop here from this square b5. You saw the problems if you go here maybe on d7 or on e8, so that's why here Duda took simply. But now this rook comes very, very actively into the game, and now our main threat is here to play knight to d7. If you take, for instance, rook takes f8, it's very, very tricky, followed with queen to f6. So here h5 was played. As I said, whatever you do, maybe you could try something like you could try here maybe something like rook to b7, but I think we can simply take knight takes h7. After queen takes h7, rook to f8 here is a serious threat, and wherever you go, king to here, it's really a problem. You lose simply the queen. So this attack by Hikaru was really great. This nice deflection motif by the bishop on c4. Here, what after the move rook to e8, what Duda tried is the move h5, but now comes this move knight to d7. You can have here Duda tried bishop to d5, but now after rook takes f8, bishop to g8, and now after queen takes queen to d8, here in this position, Duda resigned. But whatever you do, again, if you try something like rook to b7, maybe to include another defender, then you get simply knight to f6, and the game is lost. So you see, also this knight can come into the game. This knight is too far away from the action, so it's a lost game for the Polish Grandmaster. So great attack, but as I said, maybe here let's go back here in this particular position. After f takes e4, here knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, I think is a good position here for black. Rook takes e4, and now maybe simplify the position. As I said, this is a bad bishop situation, but Duda went into some tactical lines, got punished because of it. You see how Hikaru attacks when he sees that he has something going on, then he'll find his tactics. Great game by Hikaru, but also great game by Duda. This is, of course, this rapid format. It's really hard to calculate everything, but this, I think, was the best game of this day. Okay, after this win, Hikaru Nakamura took the lead in the tournament. The current standings after this 11 rounds are that we have now Hikaru on the first place, Sergei Karyakin on second place, Carlsen is on the third place, and Wesley So is on the fourth place. I think Ding Liren, Yu Yangi, Alexander Grishuk, and who is the 8th participant in the quarterfinals, I'm not sure now, but Alireza Firuja, Levon Aronyan, and Wei Ji are out of this tournament. So it was maybe a surprise, but still, Alireza has to improve more. Maybe Levon Aronian didn't play his best tournament because he's a little bit distracted by his problems because of this tragedy that he had recently. Okay, but still, this was a great tournament for Aronian. I think he played also some decent chess. Alireza, as I said, he has to improve if he wants to battle with his sharks. So tomorrow we have really a day off. So then we will have this quarterfinals. This will be some different matches, but I still think that this format is not good because Hikaru now, you see, ended in the first place and may get crushed out, kicked out in the next quarterfinal immediately. So it's not a fair setup, I think. For as I said, Hikaru won basically this tournament, but still has to compete only in the quarterfinal, which is not good. I think at least the winner should be immediately placed to semifinals. But okay, this is a subject for another video maybe. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from the series. Here's the link with some more games from this tournament and some other tournaments. And you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.